Like, is this it? Like, did I just peak in high school? Are you painting on a tooth? And he's like, yeah. Get the score right away for DAT. And I got an academic average of, and I'm going to be a dentist. It's kind of crazy. I'm always like, thank you, God. Hello, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Gloria and I'm a fourth year dental student. In this channel, I will be sharing my life with you as a dental student, sharing my residency application journey, which is coming up in January, and also just share a few cello covers and lifestyle tips. So if you'd like to see some more, please click on the subscribe button and turn on notification. I hope that whatever I am about to share today will help anyone who needs to hear it. I have no idea who's gonna hear it. We'll see. Let's go YouTube algorithm. So today is January 4th, which means that it's been 5 years since I have decided to sit down and start studying for the dental admissions test, aka the DAT. It's really surreal to say that 5 years later, I am 5 months away from graduation and I'm going to be a dentist. It's kind of crazy. And I thought that, you know what, like I would share more in depth beyond like my Instagram posts of just how I came to be where I am today. This is a post I've been wanting to do, but I've been so afraid of possible judgment and I don't know, hate. But hopefully whoever might find this helpful, I really hope it is helpful. So to give context to as to just like the steps I've taken to be where I am today, I'm going to be briefly sharing about my college days because I think it was a very crucial moment in my life. I spent 4 years at undergrad at Brandeis, and I double majored in biology and health science, society, and policy. Basically, it's a public health and healthcare policy degree. And even though I say I double majored in these two things, I really majored in extracurriculars. So I started out college really bitter because I did my best in high school. I did well in classes, I took 10 APs, I had a lot of really good achievements, but I still couldn't get into my top choice universities. And I was so disappointed in myself and I was afraid to try again, to study and just give my all again and fail. And I think I was so scared of failure. I've always had reasons as to why I can't give my all. So it wasn't that I was just partying and being lazy on my butt all day, but I was always doing something. But it came to the point where I was kind of maybe serving and doing things for other people or for instant gratification, but never for my long-term goal. And I think, you know what, some of us go through that stage. I think I just had like 4 full-blown years of it. So here are the things that I did, and I think they were still helpful to who I am today. I feel like I probably could have done half of these and still get into dental school. So number 1, I ran for student body vice president for 2 years, and it was a lot of commitment. I ran like the student senate like meetings, had a lot of meetings with the administration, and had my own projects about like extending shuttle bus hours, blah, blah, blah. There were a lot of things I did just for that position, but I was also an RA, aka residential advisor, and also an orientation leader. I was president of skydiving club. Yes, I went in tandem skydiving for free 4 times. I've never been such an outgoing person in high school. I think I kind of just like went wild and just did whatever I could. I volunteered at a local elementary school and taught these kids. I wrote for the school newspaper and also drew illustrations. I learned to improvise on the cello and I had a lot of like cello performances. I did a lot. Wow. And no wonder that I will start studying for orgo at probably 2 in the morning, as back then there was no such thing as lecture capture. So if there's no lecture captures, and obviously me being not a morning person, I missed so many classes, and on top of that I have meetings that kind of just overlapped. It was really hard for me to get anything done. In the beginning of my college days, the first semester, I partied, I drank beer and wrote essays at a party, and I still got A-. So I started with like 3.7 GPA, and then towards the end of my undergraduate days, my grades just kind of started dropping, and it became a 3.3. It's not like the worst grade ever, but I knew that I was more capable of staying disciplined and learning materials. It was to the point where now I didn't know how to study anymore and like concentrate, and it would eat away in my self-confidence. I was like, am I unable to learn anything new anymore? Like, is this it? Like, did I just peak in high school? There's just a lot of questions I had, and I just had not much like confidence left until senior year. I was like, you know what, like I just need to like snap out of these commitments. They're great, but it's not really what I want to do like after college. So then I dropped a lot of my commitments during senior year, buckled down. I took like 6 classes. I worked out 5 or 6 times a week. And For that last semester of college, I got 3.8 GPA. I also lost 23 pounds in 2 months. And I think I just needed that little confidence boost for me to move on to my master's. So obviously, because my relatively low GPA for health professional schools, I wanted to make up for it by taking graduate level courses. And despite me not prioritizing my grades, I was still very set on medical school. It has been a dream of mine of 10 years to be able to treat those in pain and just heal those who are in need and be able to make a huge difference in their lives. And probably my biggest inspiration was my parents, because they weren't doing so well health-wise, and it has always motivated me to study and be involved in the health field. Even though I didn't prioritize the grades, I still majored in extracurriculars. So during college, over the summer, I would do service trips in Costa Rica and Nicaragua. I worked at an eye hospital in India and won a fellowship for it, and just got to work at outreach camps and bring patients back and observe any cataract and eye surgeries, which was also really cool. The summer between college and master's, I worked at Mass General Hospital and did a short clinical research, and I shadowed anesthesiologists and got to watch really cool surgeries in the OR. And I had all these experiences under my belt. And the only thing I was lacking were my grades. So I was like, okay, let's get those grades. So then I did my master's in science and medical sciences at Boston University, commonly known as the BU-MEMS program, which is very challenging. During the first year, you take what first year medical students at BU take. You take the same load and get graded for it. I think everything but anatomy. And during the second year, you do library/research thesis. So it was so hard from not really regularly attending classes and studying to all of a sudden it mattered, and they were so challenging. I think I cried probably every other day, and it was really tough, but I got through it. It wasn't a huge difference in terms of my GPA, but I definitely got to learn how to study effectively better. I was kind of transitioning from not looking at textbooks, not looking at the written syllabus, and actually paying attention to real lectures in class where they're going to be the ones that are going to be tested. And during the second year, I did my cancer research at MGH, and that was also challenging too, because I've never done bench work research before. And I was, I think, somewhat intimidated by all these brilliant people teaching me how to pipette, basically. And it was cool, very amazing 2 years of growth, but just say that it was a struggle. I finished the program with, I think, 3.45 GPA, and I still felt that that wasn't high enough to apply. So now, it came down to the fact that, okay, I already did my undergrad, I already did my graduate, so now the only thing that will compensate for my GPA was my MCAT. And for some reason, and I think I know why, I just couldn't buckle down and study for the MCAT. And I took the MCAT 4 times. And each time I developed this anxiety. So I would get panic attacks in the beginning of every time that I've taken the MCAT, because I was overwhelmed. I didn't know how to study. It's not a matter of you reading chapter 1 to chapter 12, but you were just a lot of doing problems. And I didn't know. I was so uncomfortable with not knowing, to the point that I would avoid doing problems until the very end when I didn't have a lot of time. I got my MCAT score, which I was not proud of, but I applied knowing that it wasn't my best effort, and I was really upset at myself, and I felt very defeated. But my parents were calling me from Korea every day. They're like, why haven't you applied? Why can't you get in? Or why haven't you gotten an interview? And I knew the answers to all those. It wasn't my best effort. And I didn't know how to cope with that part in my life. There was just a lot of self-hatred and despair. And what came January 2016. It was only a few months after I applied to all the medical schools. And my friends asked me, I know that medical school is such a big dream of yours, but have you ever asked God what he wants you to do? And I was like, no. I'm scared to find out what he's gonna say. What if he says no medical school? That would be the end of my life. But that being said, for my New Year's resolution in 2016, every single day of January, I got down on my knees and prayed to God. Hello, it's me. What do you want me to do? I thought that if I just get into medical school and do it for your glory, you would open the doors, but what's going on? I feel so empty. It's I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do, but I feel I'm going nowhere. So after 3 days of prayer as my part of my New Year's resolution, on January 4th, I got a call from my parents saying that they can only financially support me for 2 more months due to circumstance. And basically, I was to figure out what my next steps are in terms of test scores or whatever for 2 more months, and then I'll have to start working and or like sell my car or my cello. And what stung me the most was that because they were so stressed, they pretty much resented me, saying that this whole time we were supporting you, why couldn't you secure your future ahead of time before all this would have happened? And there's just that element of guilt already that I have, and that my parents overexert themselves, work and support me here. Man, it really stung, and it was really hard for me to talk to my parents until I was done with the DAT. I was like determined, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna get that score and prove them wrong. January 4th of 2016 was a time that I went on Student Doctor Network because I was so ashamed to ask anyone in dental field about dentistry, because I was so ashamed to admit that I'm willing to change to a different career because I felt that medicine wasn't it. And I wasn't sure why, but I knew that it wasn't it. I didn't have the confidence in me to kill the MCAT in 2 months. Why dentistry back then? I think the only difference was that dental school, you can start working after 4 years. Medical school, it takes 10 years because you have 4 years of medical school and then 5 years of residency and fellowship. I'm just gonna try something else that doesn't have physics in their exams, and I still get to be my own boss, and I don't know what dentistry is like. I don't get cavities, but I'm just gonna try. And so began the 7 weeks of studying every day in the libraries that were open till 2 a.m. And you know what? That studying journey alone deserves a video of its own, because it was such a crazy story too. I studied every day, and actually on the day of my exam, I didn't know that unlike the MCAT, you get the score right away for DAT. And I got an academic average of 22 and total science of 23. I think I actually would have done better if my QR score wasn't so low. I had 18 because I overestimated my ability to do math. I don't know why I thought that. But anywho, this was a very solid score for me to consider applying to dental schools. And when my parents and I finally talked, they congratulated me, and they told me that while I was studying and not talking to them, they figured out their own ways and they were able to avoid the financial situation. So we were no longer in that rut that we were in, so finances were no longer an issue again. So then I was like, well, if finances aren't the issue and I don't have to support my parents, then I want to go back to medicine. I want to become a doctor. So since I'm on this roll, I think I know how to buckle down and actually study. I'm gonna re-register for the MCAT and just apply. Well, but my mom was like, can you just at least go shadow a dentist, because you already have the score and it's pretty decent. Just try it out. Just take a break before you study for the MCAT again. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So one day I prayed and walked into my old dentist office that I haven't been to in 8 years, unannounced, totally. And that day was such a magical day because my dentist, now my mentor, happened to be blocking off his schedule that day to treat a missionary that he works with from Nicaragua. He was in this I suppose a holy moment basically. I came in, I was like, hello, do you remember me? Can I shadow you? I might want to become a dentist, I am not sure. He took me in and he was like, do you wanna come with me on a mission trip? And I said no, because I wasn't gonna become a dentist, but thank you. And the first day I shadowed my now mentor, I knew that dentistry was what I truly wanted. His patients knew him so well, and they got to see him every 6 months. And the dentist was able to offer surgical and hands-on treatments. And more than that, you get to be with your patient from start to finish, from you diagnosing the problems to offering treatment plans to actually offering the treatment itself. Actually could take just one visit too. I mean, sometimes it takes more. And what actually sold me the most was the fact that he was glazing a crown in the back of his lab. And basically it's he was painting on a fake tooth, like 50 different shades of yellow to make it look like a real tooth. And I love to paint. It just looks so much fun. And I was like, are you painting on the tooth? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, wow, I think I want to do that. And I just changed my mind like that. I love the fact that you have your own autonomy and you get to control your own hours and your own pricing on things. That one day was all it took for me to actually come home, cancel my MCAT, and told my parents, I think I'm just gonna go dental. I love it. And they couldn't believe me because I was so stubborn about everything. But that's really just God's fingerprints all over it, because I would have never thought that I liked dentistry. To this day, I can't believe that I'm going to be a dentist, because that was never really part of my goal per se. But now I can't see it any other way. I'm always like, thank you, God. So my dentist is now my lifelong mentor. And after allowing me to shadow him for a week, he offered me a job as a front desk receptionist and cross-trained me to become an assistant. And it was really cool because I got to work there until I got into dental school. And I did go on the mission trip that he invited me to in Nicaragua and actually met the missionary who was in the waiting room when I first walked into the office, which was also really cool. And I love the fact that with portable x-ray machines to the equipment you can bring, you can actually offer a lot of tangible solutions and treatments to those in pain. And it was a very different experience from some of the medical trips that I was on because there weren't a lot of things you could do without proper equipment and things. Just to kind of like summarize it in timeline, I took my DAT in March and I went on the mission trip in late June and then submitted my primary and secondary application to dental schools in early August. I emailed all my recommenders to ask them to resubmit their letters, just like swapping out the medical to dental, which was, I guess, in some ways tedious, but I'm glad that they did that so quickly. Because that turnaround time, really, I kind of whipped up a whole application in like 3-4 months, which is crazy. And on AADSAS, which is equivalent to the Common App for colleges, they ask you questions such as if, when, and where you apply to other health professional schools. And I knew this was going to leave a black mark on my application, but I wanted to be honest because if God is opening doors in this way, like I don't need to pull weird strings for me to get into this. You know, he was going to work his magic. So I answered very truthfully, but I made sure to explain that while I did apply to medical schools, I wasn't really sure if this was really what I wanted. And, you know, I really came to the conclusion that dentistry is the right path for me. And I think it's important to answer certain difficult questions on the note that you want to end on. And on the actual application, I took out a lot of the extracurriculars that I mentioned already in this video because it was no longer relevant to what I want to do. So for example, I didn't include my medical trips to Costa Rica, Nicaragua. I didn't include the clinical research I did at MGH. I didn't really mention about shadowing anesthesiologists and seeing, you know, like surgeries in the OR. I think I did explain the eye hospital because I did win the fellowship. So just to explain what I did, I think, but it wasn't a big part of my application. And really the big focal point of my application was like my shadowing experience, my like employment at the district dental office and my mission trip. Basically my personal statement was about the mission trip that I was on and what I learned and what I took away from dentistry. And this was more than enough for me to have multiple interview invites, even though they were all post-December. And you know what, like the rest is history. I'm gonna be a dentist and it's amazing. Like, wow, like I'm sharing this and I'm like, wow, praise the Lord. And looking back, I wish that I let go of my pride and was more open to the idea of things not working out the way I want. Because his ways are always better and higher. And it's actually okay to quit and change your mind. It doesn't make you a quitter. It just means that you pivoted and that's okay. I don't know why I was so like hung up on this and couldn't let go of my dreams, even if it may not be maybe what's best for me. More than like, oh, I pray to God and like this things happened. I think my heart changed. God really trained me to pray and let go of my pride. And basically he in some ways took away pretty much all my like devices for me to be self-sufficient. Kind of put me in a situation where all I could do was trust in him and act. Through that, I still think that even if dental didn't work out, God would have opened a different door and I would have been thriving in that regardless. So I wanted to share this story in hopes that if this is something that you're going through or if you have, I don't know, like please like let me know. I would love to hear it. Even in dental school, a lot of people go through very different means to get into dental school. I thought that I was like old, but I realized I wasn't. So I also want to encourage people that it's never too late. I hope that, you know, we can all overcome hardships in our lives and be able to laugh and share openly with just like how things have changed in 5 years. I am celebrating and praising God for his undeniable fingerprints, any prints throughout my life. And this is just my story. But I hope that if anyone is considering dental or if anyone is on the similar boat as me, I hope that this story has offered a different perspective to someone. I have no idea where this video is gonna go. If you found this helpful, please support my channel by subscribing and liking this video and just, you know, turning on notifications. Well, thanks so much for listening and tuning in, and happy January 4th. God is good. Bye.